Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its future is very bleak where we stand right now. Everything ranging from the lineup for 2025 and beyond is really like Disney walking on eggshells at this point. They are in such a delicate position right now because of how split the fandom has become based on the Marvels, based on Kevin Feige and his overall push for the usage of DEI and all this ESG nonsense being thrown into these movies and TV shows moving onwards. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you are new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, the thing about the Marvels is that we know it had the absolute worst MCU opening in box office history for the Marvel Universe, and that's a fact. And it definitely is one of the worst box office failures by Disney. Now, we know that the Marvels really should have been, at most, a Disney Plus series divided up into 3 parts. That's how I feel, at least. I don't know about you guys, but some others would say that it should be non-existent, and I agree with that as well. But it really was not meant for the big screen in my book, and there's several reasons why. The directing for this story is very aimless, the writing is very off, the dialogue doesn't fit well with the story at all. It's not just a problem with some agendas that were thrown in here and there, but it's also the fact of how the story is very weak, and the way it was actually directed by Nia DaCosta really just goes nowhere and doesn't help the MCU at all. Now, what's interesting about all of this has to do with Brie Larson's situation, not just over at Disney as we had previously discussed, but also her current status in the film industry. Now, what's interesting about all of this has a lot to do with the fact that with the Marvels, of course, being one of the box office failures by Disney this year, and within the MCU itself, one major development has to do with Brie Larson and her current status in Hollywood, as she was recently blacklisted by multiple Hollywood studios following the failure of her latest Marvel film. Brie, of course, recently delivered the following to everyone. Working on the Marvels has been a blast. This is a great story of empowering women that will inspire others. My experience in the film industry for well over 10 years now, I can say that many of the studios make very unfair decisions when it comes to women, and it still is something that needs to be fixed. Many keep asking me what other projects do I have lined up, and all I can say right now is that sometimes in this business, certain studios just don't want to work with you anymore. Things just fall apart for no reason and conversations stop, and it's something that I have been dealing with along with other actresses too that tend to deal with these struggles. It can be a serious tease when you believe some studios really are all on your side one day, and then you learn you are expendable the next, and it's a very unfair part in this industry, I can tell you that. I don't really want to go into what projects I was working on, but many of those are now just not moving forward anymore, and I think many of these studios need to wake up and learn about fairness in this world. Now, apart from what Larson stated here, this all alludes to what recently happened behind the scenes, where studios like Universal Pictures, for example, was actually on the fence for a while, but recently finalized their overall plan to banish Brie Larson from working on future Fast and Furious spin-off films, let alone any future movie at all. Specifically an all-female-led Fast and Furious movie that was pitched by Vin Diesel and accepted by Universal, that recently will no longer include Brie Larson and how they no longer want to work with her anymore ever again. Now guys, let me just say one thing about this. Now, you guys may be a little out of the loop, but Vin Diesel is doubling down on Fast and Furious to go beyond Fast X Part 2 and Part 3, and they want to embrace spin-offs after that, such as an all-female-led spin-off starring Charlize Theron and all of the female stars and new ones alike, and to actually just expand. And Brie was going to be a big central part of that expansion that is no longer happening. It was going to be a very big Universal multi-movie deal for Brie Larson that now is no longer pushing forward. And that goes to show you how big of an impact her failure at Disney has had on other studios, and specifically the Marvels, how that was basically the ultimate push. Now, we know that Brie Larson, at the end of the day, is another insufferable actress right up there with those like Rachel Zegler, Amber Heard, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, just to name a few, by the way. We also have a lot of actors also that are very insufferable along with them, but at the same exact time, we know that this business was never fair. Rachel Zegler's going through a very similar process and complaining about the unfairness in the Hollywood bubble, and I think a lot of these actresses are just very too much self-absorbed, to the point where they lose a sense of reality about how this world doesn't work like sunshine and rainbows with everybody, right? Everything is unfair to a degree, especially in the film industry. You know, nothing's ever going to go your way consistently, especially if you're involved in a lot of box office failures, specifically one of the worst box office failures in Marvel Cinematic Universe history. So that's a big deal, and that's really a big dent on her acting career. You know, right now, all she has left, for the most part, are Nissan commercials, and even that's beginning to fall apart. We already know that Nissan vehicles and their commercials are slowly but surely phasing out Brie Larson month by month. I don't know if you guys realize that, but moving onwards, what's interesting further is that in addition to this, another studio that finalized their plans that comes in the wake of the Marvel box office collapse is Warner Brothers, where Brie was locked in to return for a Skull Island sequel and a new Godzilla film that would bridge the characters from both Kong Skull Island and Godzilla. Warner Brothers decided that they too never want to work with Larson again after they finalized this plan, after the Marvel's box office nightmare that comes from Disney, and of course more moviegoers are beginning to realize that Brie also made some terrible PR mistakes in the past as well, which was another reason why many studios are dropping her one by one after learning about said PR disasters. Even Sony Pictures dropped Larson from a project they were in talks about, and the heads over at Sony also never want to give Larson an acting opportunity or even a conversation of a future deal again. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware about the multiple PR nightmares that Brie had caused, especially things that she said on stage. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. She has said many dumb things, pretty on par with what Rachel Zegler said about Snow White 1937, if not worse, to a degree. Now, we know that Brie Larson, at the same exact time, she's gonna do whatever she has to do to make her acting career work. Much like Amber Heard, we saw what she went through. She did whatever she could. She took an indie movie, and that didn't work out. I believe it was called In the Fire or Into the Fire, correct me if I'm wrong. And even that didn't work out. You know, fan reception-wise, or, you know, the reviews were really just not working well. And I think Brie's gonna follow a similar path, where you're gonna see her embracing more indie movies instead of these major movies by these Hollywood studios. And it's gonna become a more common trend than you believe by a lot of these actresses or actors that either make very bad deals or make, you know, very bad PR choices that maybe have not been instructed by the studios, stuff like that. So overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.